Hey, this is Tom Kundert from Portugal.net and you're listening to the Seleção podcast.
Simões bending one for Torres. Eusebio. Oh my word! Have you ever seen anything like that?
Bem jogado por Simão, a passar por dois adversários, Simão a tentar oferecer o golo a Figo e a bola é golo! O golo de Figo!
Rui Costa já acreditou, vai tirar para o golo, atira, golo! 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 Cristiano Ronaldo, vai embora Cristiano Ronaldo! Bateu, golo, 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 golo! Chuta! Gol!
From the José Batista podcast desk, this is episode number 104 of the Seleção podcast, a proud partner of Portugal.net. My name is Danny Pinto. I am your host. Thank you guys so much once again for tuning in as we get ready for some Seleção football once again. As you know, the two-time champs of the Nations League took a nice little summer break, as did we a little bit. My thanks again to Mike Agostino for our coverage of the Navegadores during the Euros, but we are back to the reason why this podcast was created, and that is to talk about our beloved Seleção and to talk to us about our beloved Seleção. With me is Tom Kundert of Portugal.net as we preview the World Cup qualifying for what we hope will be some World Cup football with the Seleção playing in either the United States, Canada, or Mexico during the summer of 2026. But before we do that, obviously the intro a little different. You guys can't see it, but I have a new desk. This was a desk that was gifted by the family of my padrinho, José Batista, who passed away a few years ago. He had an enormous desk that he worked at daily, and my padrinho was a very, very special person to me and my cousins Paul, Duarte, Isabel, and Tete, Teresa. They were kind enough to ask me if I wanted the desk, and B, if it would fit in the house. Yes to both of those questions, and I can't thank them enough. So forever forward, the podcast will begin from the José Batista podcast desk. So Padre, love you. This is the first one at the desk, so hopefully we do you proud here. But before we bring Tom on, we get to the info that I always give you guys at Seleção Pod on X and on Twitter, also on Instagram. Seleçãopod.com is the website. Facebook.com/Seleção Pod on Facebook. And I think I said Facebook, maybe Instagram. Yeah, I did all those. But you guys already know. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. Get the alert button so you can see, and I think it's either here or here. There it is, here or here. But please make sure you guys are subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of the podcast aggregators that you guys listen to us on, and we appreciate you guys making time, as we appreciate this man making time for us here on episode number 104 of the Seleção podcast. Tom Kundert, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine, Dan. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, that studio's looking, ever more professional. It's looking pretty good, bud.
Professional's one is a word. We'll just call it. Yeah, it's a way to characterize it for sure. But yeah, we ever forward with new things in the podcast studio. So it's a lot of fun. If you got to have fun, you got to make it look as best you can when, especially when big shots like you, sir, are coming on the pod once again. So
I feel like I'm letting the side down a bit. This is my little white background and a little green plants. But
It's a hell of a plant, Tom. My goodness, it's I don't have any greenery in so it's what being that it's the colors of Portugal. I have a lot of dominant red on my side. Let me see if I could even turn there it is. Now it looks like a proper Portuguese flag with the green on the left side and now a lot of red on the right side. So.
Green and red. That's what we need.
A lot to get to with qualifying and everything starting on Saturday. We are recording this on September the 4th. September the 4th, unfortunately, in the country of Portugal, a national day of mourning due to the tragic tram accident that happened in Lisbon yesterday. If you guys are not aware, one of the you see the famous trams in all these tourist videos and in pictures, and I'm sure many of us who are listening to this podcast, myself not included, I've not been to mainland Portugal yet, but a lot of you who are listening to this podcast have probably taken this specific tram. And I just want to make sure I have the name of the Elevador da Glória, and it. For lack of a better term, Tom, and you can give me a little bit more of the details if I'm missing anything, but in essence, it went off its tracks, and as of right now, according to I think the latest I'm looking at is NBC News, 17 people passed away and over 20 injured in just a horrific accident, and the government of Portugal declared that today was going to be a national day of mourning. Prior to us agreeing to this interview, so I do appreciate you still making time for us. But being in Lisbon, what is the feel and what is the sense of just the tragedy that happened yesterday?
Yeah, it's a huge shock. Really terrible tragedy. As you know, tourism is a huge part of Portuguese economy, but just the human tragedy of it. Like I say, one of Lisbon's iconic landmarks, even, and one of the things which I recommended to do when you come to Lisbon is go on the trams and go on that one, Elevador da Glória. I've been on it myself a few times. I haven't been for quite a few years. It just links Restauradores up to Bairro Alto. Of course, Bairro Alto is one of the most iconic neighborhoods of Lisbon, a huge tourist area full of bars, restaurants, fantastic miradores. How do you say that in English? Beauty spots. So you can go there, you can just have a look of, views over the whole of Lisbon, or going to the other side, Praça da Chiado, you get views over the River Tejo and everything. So it's it's a huge steep hill to get there. And so that tram is, as well as being a tourist attraction, it's actually very practical, and it's used even by quite a lot of the locals, local residents to go up to Bairro Alto from Restauradores. So just that's, I think it's over 150 years old, that tram. So never been an accident like that before. So just a huge shock and terrible stories, really. There was an eyewitness account of just a local resident who is actually a journalist, a radio journalist, who lives on that street. I think it's the Rua da Glória, and so he was just walking up towards his home when he saw the accident, and he immediately ran there, like lots of people did, to try and help. Man. And it's really heartbreaking hearing that particular story, because it said there was a small kid, crying with his arms out, and he helped pull him out of the wreckage. And it turns out, thankfully, the kid is okay, but his two parents passed away. So, just how
golly.
I know how terrible is that, and all I think the majority of the passengers, especially at that time, I think it was, late afternoon or mid-afternoon, would have been tourists. And so, it's just really devastating to think that they come to Portugal for a holiday, to kind of relax, to see the sights, and end up getting caught in that. So, horrible tragedy. And, like you said, a day of national mourning and incredible numbers, really. Sometimes you see these accidents, you might think, one or two, of course, one person dying is a tragedy, but
Absolutely.
17 people is just incredible, really, really sad. And before training today, they had a minute's silence at the, Cidade de Football, and it's been, obviously, as you can imagine, no one's talking about anything else at the moment, and just trying to, find out, what happened, or first of all, just trying to treat the injured. Still, that's, like you said, it's 17 people, 17 fatalities, but I think there's still a few people who are in very serious conditions. So the priority is obviously to, give them the best medical care possible and try and make sure that they pull through. But not a very nice news to wake up to.
No, not at all. And I appreciate the information there. And our thoughts and prayers are with everyone who's been impacted by that, the families of those who have passed and that are injured, and just in reading a little bit of it, it's, you mentioned the tourism. Like, there's so many, like they named, like, people from Spain and Germany, from the States, from just the tourism that Portugal brings, and that tram does bring to the country of Portugal, is such an iconic and just an iconic thing that you do. And the unfortunate tragedy of yesterday definitely puts a damper on that, and I hope that everyone can just get through this very, very tough time in Portugal. There's not really much more to add to that. We go from this is more of a podcast that is happy-go-lucky, except when this national team lays an egg. But we do go from one tragedy to another, because it's the first time we've had you on since Diogo Jota's passing, and his brother André Silva. We also had the passing of the legendary Jorge Costa. And during the call-up, obviously Roberto Martinez, who I thought, for someone who does not speak the language naturally, I thought was as poignant and as genuine and and just filled with grace in the manner in which he handled the announcement, the reason why it's 23 com mais I thought the handling that the Federation has done of the senseless death of Diogo Jota has been nothing short of unbelievable in a positive way, considering the tragedy that it was. And the ceremony at the beginning of everyone getting called in, the honoring of the number 21 jersey in bronze, as well as Jorge Costa's number 2, the passing number 21 to Ruben Neves, who was such good friends with Diogo Jota. You're closer to this than we are, just in terms of proximity, and obviously in covering the team for as long as you have. But what have you thought of just the handling of Diogo Jota's passing by the Federation thus far?
Yeah, I agree with you, Danny. I think they've handled it really well. Yeah, that's a good word to use, very gracefully. Very, very elegant, really saying all the right words. I think Roberto Martinez, I think his reputation in football, and people know, he is genuinely a nice guy. We can talk about whether or not he's a good coach, whether he's going to lead Portugal to victory. That's another question. But I think nobody can doubt he's a good guy, and I think that's really all his good traits, human traits, have come out, through this terrible tragedy, in the way he's conducted himself and everything he's said. Not kind of overdoing it, but just saying everything which needs to be said, really. And I agree with you, it's a really nice way to start. So this was the first call-up since Diogo Costa, that sadly passed away. And before anything, he spoke just for about a minute. He spoke really well, I thought, about the way that Diogo Jota would still be with Portugal, and even, physically calling up 23 players plus one every squad call up during this qualification campaign. Saying that he's with all of us in terms of that they all obviously relate to him very closely. Good friends with him, some of them really good friends with him, like you mentioned, Ruben Neves, and just saying how he was a kind of a light, and everything that's just come out about Diogo Jota, since his death. Of course, when people pass away, everyone says what a wonderful person there was, but I think with Diogo Jota, you can see it's genuine. People really admired him for his, his kind of human attributes and his personality, his character, as well as his obviously fantastic footballing ability. So I think they've handled it well. It's a really nice touch. Also, that Ruben Neves, of course, gets the number 21 shirt. He'll be wearing that in his honour. And it's good. I think that Ruben Neves, of course, over the years has been the subject of a few disparaging remarks, I think we can say, about whether or not he should be in the squad. And it's nice that he's actually, before Diogo Jota's passing, he kind of silenced those critics, and that criticism. He was very good in the Nations League. He came on twice, made a big difference, both against Germany in the semi-final and Spain in the final. And of course, he scored a winning penalty to actually clinch the trophy for Portugal. And he was the person who's probably been most affected by Diogo Jota's death. They were really close friends. I think they played together for, it's 162 times for Porto, for Wolves, for the Seleção. Both got young families, spend a lot of time together. Their families, obviously, very good friends with each other. So, terrible. It's just, terrible to think of the impact that it's had on him. And that's even before you start thinking about the family and, other close friends. And so, it's just, again, a terrible situation. But, with these things, Danny, I think it's quite important. And one thing we should do is try and focus on Diogo Jota and Jorge Costa and what they actually achieved, which was a hell of a lot, and what they did in their lives and the amount of joy they brought to other people and the amount of they brought to themselves and their families. So, both those lives were prematurely came to an end, but they were both very well-lived lives, both of them. And of course, not to forget his brother Andre.
Yeah, the impact that the Diogo Jota, part of both Nations League wins, those trophies. Jorge Costa, part of kind of on the back end of the golden generation in the early '90s and early to mid '90s, and his impact at Porto and just it's. Death is undefeated. It's inevitable, but when it happens, sometimes you're just never ready. And even if you think you are, you're not. So, our continued prayers to all the friends and family of Diogo, Andre, and Jorge. I will say this in a bit of a positive here. I always knew Jorge Costa as like the tank, but there was another nickname that he was given that I was not familiar with, and it escapes me because it came to me as we were talking, because I do think there's some positive in remembering folks like this in a matter like this. But what was his other nickname that he? Ubishu. Yeah, I had never heard that because he was a little bit before my time, and I'm not a Portista. I mean, you can see by all the red behind me, you think I'm bleeding over here. But Ubishu, do you know the origin of that name?
Yeah, the Bisho. So he's an animal, which is a bit like his, the way he played.
Just animal. Okay.
Yeah, for me, Jorge Costa really personifies everything that Porto were about. When I came to Portugal in 1994, so he just established himself really in the team, And I just used to seeing game after game, month after month, year after year, season after season, decade after decade. Porto just somehow having this amazing ability to win at the end of the day. So many last minute wins, so many, just such determination. Much more, I have to say. Even though I'm a Sporting fan, I know you're a Benfica fan, and I have to say that's one thing which you couldn't help but admire. And it did kind of, I know it's become a bit of a cliche, but it did kind of set Porto apart a little bit from the Lisbon clubs. They did really seem to have this never say die attitude. It doesn't really matter how many of the kind of players they had on the pitch. And I think the player who really epitomised that more than anything, and there's probably a reason for it because he was there for so long, is Jorge Costa. He was such a competitive animal. There you go, Ubishu, that he was called it. But it's funny again, talking about his personality. I think he reminds me a little bit like Pep in that, he was just this absolutely fearsome centre-back, a little bit playing on the edge of the rules, we can say.
Really?
A few of the dark arts, certainly not afraid to use his physicality. But off the pitch, very different personality, quietly spoken, just like Pep, quite calm, very with, with fair play. I think it was quite telling that some of the most kind of heartfelt tributes to Jorge Costa actually came from players who weren't Portistas. Rui Costa, I think that was one of his best friends in football. You mentioned there the World Youth Cup. They were both on that team that won the World Youth Cup with Carlos Queiroz. Nuno Gomes, of course, who came up against him so many times. He said it was his most difficult obstacle, or one of the most difficult defenders he's had to face. But he said always, one thing was what happened on the pitch, another thing was afterwards. And they said they had a huge amount of mutual respect, and they were good friends as well. So yeah, I think that is the real tragedy. Of course, these players are they'll always be icons of Portuguese football, Diogo Jota and Jorge Costa. But I think those two, especially, they all the tributes coming out, they really were just good people, just two good people. And so yeah, that just really just make it sad.
Well, yeah, it's sometimes real life gets in the way of just talking about football and soccer, and I think I think we would be doing both the country of Portugal and these players a disservice if we hadn't at least spoken a little bit about what had happened yesterday in Lisbon, and obviously the passing of these players and the impact of them. So Tom, I appreciate that part from you. We go to now. We talk football now, and the 23-man roster. And I'm going to pull it up here as I speak here. But I will say this, Tom. I think it's, and maybe it is the the coming off of the win at the Nations League, and I do want to kind of get your thoughts on just the perception now, because it was something, because we had talked about it after the victory and the win. I think that it had Portugal, or I should say this, had Spain beaten Portugal in that final, I think the overwhelming thought would have been, Yamal this, and he's led them now to 2 different titles, and it's all that stuff, or not 2 different titles, but I just think that it would have been overblown. Yet Portugal wins, and it kind of just like, it was the Nations League. Do you get that sense from just around those who cover football? Like, it would have been great if Spain would have won, or it would have been a great thing if Spain would have won, because the legacy and the hype of Yamal would have been even greater. But Portugal wins, it's like, Nations League.
Well, I suppose it depends a little bit where you're coming from, because in Portugal it certainly wasn't that. They had
it wasn't like that here in California. I tell you that much.
Yeah, huge celebrations here, and of course, I do think in one way this Nations League has been a little bit disparaged by countries who've never won it. I'm sure, for instance, that's from the English media, of course, which does tend to dominate the football media a bit. They tend to look down a bit upon this tournament. Maybe in that first tournament, when they also got to the Final Four, if they'd actually won it, maybe they would have had a different attitude towards it. But in Portugal, no doubt about it. This is considered a huge achievement. It's a very, it's basically the third biggest tournament you can win, isn't it, nowadays? And you look at teams especially teams like Spain. They take it very seriously. They take it very seriously, as just as competitively as a Euro or World Cup. So certainly here, to be honest, I didn't really get that feeling that it was downplayed much. And it was fantastic being there. I have to say, it was a fantastic few days in Munich, brilliant stadium. We decided to go back, me and a few friends, because we'd had such a good time at the Euro, and Germany, I really liked Germany. And the only thing, of course, at the Euro, Germany was brilliant, but the football was pretty uninspiring from Portugal. This time, it was the two things came together, and so it was a fantastic week. So, of course, Yamal, you're right. I remember I was asked to speak to a couple of media outlets before the final, and of course, everyone was talking about Yamal, and he is an incredible player, almost certainly set to become the best player in the world. But he
Boy, Noon Minge didn't think so.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, what a performance. What a performance. Absolutely incredible. I think in terms of individual performances, that must be, one of the best in a big international final. That he was just absolutely sensational, wasn't he? Defending and going forward. His goal was superb. The way he handled, the Spanish defence, his penalty, even absolutely perfect penalty in the shootout.
Oh yeah.
He was just, absolutely sensational. I mean, what a player he is. There's no doubt about it. He's turned into, sometimes we talk, don't we, Dan, compare this Portugal side to previous Portugal sides and say, how many world-class players does this squad contain? Compared to, I don't know, for instance, going back to 2000s, where you had Rui Costa and Figo and, Vitor Bahia, Ricardo Carvalho then came along, and of course Pep, Fabio Coentrão for a while. Portugal have always had a smattering of a few world-class players, as well as the man himself, of course. And now, some people say perhaps it's not not so much the same, but I'm not too sure. I think there's 3 or 4 names you can pull out there who really would get into any international side, no problem at all. And Nuno Mendes is first among them probably.
Yeah, we have the squad here that Roberto Martinez had called up last week. There has been a change. We'll get to that in a second, but. Diogo Costa, José Sá, Rui Silva, your goalkeepers. Defense, Diogo Dalot, who has now since been replaced as of this morning by Nuno Tavares. I think it's just a muscle issue, I think, with Diogo Dalot, so they're taking some precaution there. But Nuno Tavares making his return to the squad. João Cancelo also making his return. Now kind of settled in Saudi Arabia. Nuno Mendes, Gonçalo Inácio, Ruben Dias, Antonio Silva, and Renato Veiga, who has made a move this summer to Spain. João Palhinha, who is now playing at my Spurs, and I just can't I'm so happy he's at Spurs. Ruben Neves, João Neves, the goal-scoring machine, João Neves. I forgot to give him his proper due. Vitinha, Bruno Fernandes, Pedro Gonçalves. Good to see on the squad here. Bernardo Silva, João Félix, Francisco Trincão, Francisco Conceição, Pedro Neto, Gonçalo Ramos, and the captain, Cristiano Ronaldo. So, to me, Tom, again, a strong squad. I'm not so much worried about qualifying, just me personally, based on the opponents that we are up against, and based on the talent that is on that list. There is a sense, and we go back to Diogo Jota for a second. They want to win this World Cup for Diogo Jota. It's a lot of pressure to put on themselves to do so. But how much of a reality do you think winning the World Cup, if you get there, but winning the World Cup could be for this squad based on this talent and based on maybe like the mission that they may be on?
Yeah. Let's see if that, galvanizes them to, just get that extra inch of effort needed when the going gets tough to get over the line. Because you look at Danny, Nations League, okay, basically who's winning the World Cup? It's a European side or Brazil or Argentina, isn't it? So,
Yeah,
it's pretty much.
Listen, Mauricio Pochettino.
Oh, sorry.
I can't even finish what I was about to say. So, but
yeah,
let's hope. For me, I hope the States do well. But other than that, yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So, the Nations League, you got every European side in that. Portugal won that. They beat Spain in the final, who many people rate as possibly the strongest international side at the moment. And so, I think Portugal have got a chance. They've got a decent chance. Of course, they don't have the weight of history, which
they don't.
Could also be an advantage to them. If Brazil don't win the World Cup, it's a failure for them. That's not quite the case with Portugal. I think Portugal have got a good chance. Of course, so many things will play into that, won't it? What will the players' form be like? Will there be any injuries, big injuries in the summer? And the same for the opposition, of course. The draw, then how will the path, hopefully, to a deep run at the World Cup? How will that pan out? That always has quite a big effect. And so there's so many imponderables. But I think if you ask most people, not only us Portuguese, who are the favourites to win the World Cup, I think a lot of people would put Portugal, right up there as one of the maybe 5 or 6 teams who have got a very good chance of winning it. So, and I think these Portuguese players now, they've won so much on an individual basis at club level, and now also the Nations League. 4 of them play for PSG, who just proved themselves to be by far the best club side in Europe. Just over last season. So they've really got no right, I could say, or no reason to fear any other side.
Sure.
It's just a question of if they can, hit form at the right time. If Roberto Martinez can get the best out of his players, I think Portugal have got a real chance. I don't think it's, realistically, if you'd asked me that question 20 years ago, I would have said it's a little bit, maybe not pie in the sky, but a little bit unrealistic to see Portugal. Even the image of Portugal being world champions, it would have been a bit difficult to imagine. Not so anymore. I don't think it is difficult to imagine. It could happen. But, like I say, lots of things have to fall into place for it to happen.
Yeah, and from reading your book and Nathan and Simon's book, the 13th chapter, World Cup World Cups have not been kind to Portugal for the most part of their history, with the exception of 66 and 2006, both of those being semifinal appearances. But I
2026. I never thought of that. Whenever it ends in a 6.
Well, I mean, let's get that one step forward and cross that finish line. But I think we say this. I think we say this as I mean, we've been doing the podcast here since 2018. I think the progression of the talent has gotten better and better. But it is like you said, it's how does the collective come together when it's time when the lights are the brightest, for lack of a better term. It'll be interesting to see how again, qualifying, we assume that they're going to qualify. 2, how the draw goes, where they'll be playing, because weather will be a factor because it's in the summer and it's in the States, and if you're back east, it could be very humid, which it may lend itself to Portugal anyway. But it who knows? They could go to Canada. They could go to Mexico. Who the hell knows at this point? But as long as they are playing in North America next summer, that's the most important thing. There was a couple of names that kind of shot out to me on this roster, and not so much not surprises, but just interest in how they can impact this squad. And one of them even more so now with the loss of Diogo Jota to injury is João Cancelo. He is now firmly entrenched in his Saudi Arabian move, and his name being called up. Not so much again a surprise, but it's like, oh yeah, he's still very much a part of this squad, and still has all the talent in the world. Him and Pot's name are the two that I kind of look at as let's see what João Cancelo can can still contribute to this squad, given that he's been away for a little bit, and what, if anything, Pot can do in the midfield if given the opportunity. But other than those two names, any name that kind of interests you, either being there or not there with this call-up?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think one thing which interests me, perhaps not so much actually on the individual names, but the way this season is going to go, and the kind of lead up to the World Cup, is the fact that you mentioned Cancelo there. That's 4 players who are going to be playing their football in Saudi Arabia this season. João Cancelo, you've got Ronaldo, of course, Ruben Neves, and of course João Felix. So how would that affect them in their performance in the summer? You could argue, it's a lesser league, it's a less competitive league, and so perhaps they won't be so finely attuned to coming up against the best players in the world. You could also argue that it could be an advantage, if they can. The European league the European season is just so draining and so exhausting, as well as all the domestic games, especially, of course, most of them play in the Premier League, and basically every single game is a battle, isn't it? Or war. It's a war of attrition, or you can't let up at all. And that's even before you start talking about the Champions League in Europe, and then domestic cups as well. Throwing the internationals as well. And it's no surprise really that so often we get to the end of the season and the players based in Europe are just completely cooked. And so perhaps, a season playing in Saudi Arabia for the likes of João Felix, and Cancelo, it won't affect them too badly. It's certainly, judging by the Nations League, Cristiano Ronaldo and Ruben Neves, they were both very good in that Nations League, mini tournament, those 2 games. And so it certainly didn't seem to diminish their footballing ability. And Martinez himself has said he puts absolutely no store in the fact that some of the players are based in Saudi Arabia. It won't affect at all, his decision on whether or not he selects them. He select them on ability only, or the usefulness he thinks they will be to the squad. And so I think that's going to be one interesting factor to look out for. And then of course, injuries and form. And I think also we have to look at, the PSG quartet and the way that quite often, if we look through the history of World Cups and Euros, quite often teams that do well, their national team is kind of based around a core of players from one club or two clubs. Of course, we look back to the great Spain sides of the first part of this century, or 2010, around then, when I think they won World Cup Euro, didn't they? And that was basically Barcelona midfield, wasn't it? And also, of course, quite a few Real Madrid players, but it's basically two clubs supplying all their players, and especially the Barcelona guys. And you could just see they were just so cohesive. They were just much better. It's much easier for them to be tactically on the same page and organised than other national teams where you're taking players from a whole load of clubs. So if Martinez can kind of harness that combination or that cohesiveness between, you've got Vitinha, of course, who's one of the best players in the world, Nuno Mendes just playing absolutely superb. I mean, you just mentioned the guy there, João Neves, that hat trick, absolutely incredible, isn't it? You don't actually think of
every goal got better.
Yeah, exactly. When you think about João Neves, you don't really think about goals, and his contribution in terms of goal scoring. But it was interesting after that hat trick, Luis Enrique was saying that that's a part of his game that he can improve on, and he should improve on. He should score more goals, and so if he's going to encourage that would obviously be brilliant as well for Portugal. So there you got those three, especially Nuno Mendes, and I think Neves, and in my opinion, Neves and Vitinha, they have to be played together. You have to take advantage of that, that understanding they have at club level, take that to the national side, as well as I think just individually. Now, just individually, they are two of the best midfielders. And so obviously that's going to mean probably one of Bernardo or Bruno will have to sit out. But I think that's one thing Martinez is going to have to sort out. And I hope he doesn't. I know when he was at Belgium, towards the end of his time there, he got a lot of criticism for being too conservative, sticking with the same players time and time again, even players who perhaps past their best. And I hope that doesn't happen in terms of preventing, this potentially devastating midfield duo of Neves and Vitinha. I mean, it's incredible, really. In the Nations League, it was very positive overall. But one negative, I think, was this crazy idea that Martinez had of playing João Neves, one of the world's best midfielders, at right back. Where he obviously wasn't comfortable. It didn't help the team.
I believe in both matches he started.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what made it so surprising as well. The first match it went badly, and then he repeated it in the second game, and again it went badly. So anyway,
so I need you to stop second guessing Roberto Martinez, sir. I've done enough of that on this podcast, and now he's a champion. So let's not besmirch the name of Roberto Martinez. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think he's, let's see, his overall record is pretty good, and whatever you say about, about his shortcomings, whatever, the fact is that he won the Nations League for Portugal. So we can't really criticise him too much. But the raw material is there, isn't it, Danny? The raw material is there. Portugal, it's an exciting time, really, to be a Portugal fan. It has been. I mean, we've really been spoiled, haven't we? Especially so long-term Seleção fans who can remember, when Portugal really weren't in the question, in the picture in terms of, winning tournaments or getting really to the latter stages. And now it's almost as a matter of course. I don't even really hear Portugal mentioned as a dark horse, because that kind of infers that they're nobody really rates them. But I think now you can't really call them a dark horse. They are genuinely one of the stronger sides in world football, and I think people recognise that.
I asked this with respect, and obviously because it's it's Diogo Jota the person, Diogo Jota the player. But he is now. I mean, he's no longer an option. I say that obviously, no tongue in cheek here. He's now not with us. But what player maybe on this squad? Not so much to take his spot, because Diogo Jota was he was good for a spot start. He was good off the bench. He didn't have his spot, I guess, cemented in terms of a role, because it would fluctuate in terms of starts and bench play or coming off the bench. But is there a player that you think, for lack of a better term, can or who you would like to see kind of emerge now, because there may be a bigger opportunity to make an impact with Diogo Jota not being an option anymore?
Yeah, I suppose the obvious one is Gonçalo Ramos, isn't it? Who, he's done well for Portugal in the past. He's done pretty well at PSG. You know, people say, and it's true, he's pretty much a bench option. He starts almost all games on the bench. But, you know, last season, I think he scored, was it 19, 20 goals? You know, he scored a lot of goals from the bench. And I think, I think he deserves more and more playing time. And also, of course, there's the whole Ronaldo situation, which I think he realises himself. That was an interesting thing also, which happened at the Nations League, that he didn't insist, or he realised, or Roberto Martinez persuaded him that he couldn't play every minute of every game. So he came off towards the end of the semi-final, and he came off in the final, when extra time was looming. And so perhaps we'll see Cristiano Ronaldo playing a few minutes fewer, and Gonçalo Ramos, would be like the obvious replacement there. So many options though, aren't there, Danny? If he goes 4-3-3, Leão, he's not in this squad because he's injured.
Yep.
But, Rafael Leão, he can, on his day, he can be a world beater, and let's see what he does this season. And then, of course, Pedro Neto is also doing really well. So, that could set up perfectly a kind of 4-3-3 with those two on the wings, and then perhaps just juggling it a little bit about with Ronaldo and Ramos. But lots of different options. Like I said, if you got Vitinha and Neves, João Neves, I think you have to have in midfield. Maybe he goes 4-4-2, if he really insists, he loves Bruno and Bernardo, isn't it? I think it's going to take something to persuade him to drop one of them, although I think it would be best to drop one of them. But another option is to play, a four-man midfield and go something like a 4-4-2. And then, of course, I suppose you could leave Rafael off on the bench, and that's quite a weapon to bring on, isn't it?
Absolutely.
He has actually. I did remember in the Euro qualifying, I think a couple of matches he went 4-4-2, and he did actually pair together Ronaldo and Ramos, which I think worked reasonably well, if memory serves me right. I think the game was at Slovakia, which they both did very well in. So, so many options. And, I haven't even mentioned João Felix. Imagine João Felix scores, 30, 40 goals, even if it is in Saudi Arabia, playing, like I was saying before, those combinations with the PSG guys. If João Felix can strike up a really good understanding with Ronaldo, perhaps Martinez would like to take advantage of that. So, yeah, lots of different opportunities, lots of different, permutations. It's going to be interesting, isn't it, Danny? We're going to see it over this quite short qualifying campaign. There's only 3 opponents, isn't there? So 6 matches.
Yep.
So, let's see how it goes. But, lots of options. I think in terms of direct replacement for, the position that Diogo Jota would have played, for me, it's probably down to either Ramos or perhaps João Felix if he has a really good season.
Yeah, he's coming off of a hat trick himself about a week or so ago. So yeah, I think for me with João Felix, it's this is an opportunity for him to just get consistent playing time, and if form can kind of roll into that, all the better. it's been inconsistent since his leaving Benfica, and if he can get consistent club time, the confidence could come right back, and he's never lacked talent. He's never lacked any kind of skill that would make him not be a great football player. But given that he has an opportunity here in Saudi Arabia to play with Ronaldo, as you mentioned, if the guys at PSG can hook up and find some chemistry, who's to say that Ronaldo and Felix couldn't do it in Saudi Arabia at Al Nassr? But last thing for me, Tom, is we have matches and we have dates and we have these opportunities for Portugal, as if you can see here on our YouTube channel. And we make sure you hit the like button, make sure you're hitting subscribe on YouTube. But Armenia and Hungary away to start. Armenia away September the 6th. Hungary on Tuesday the 9th, both away. That means, and Tom, you mentioned the small qualifying schedule. That means 3 of the last 4 matches are going to be played in Portugal. On October 11th, I believe the game is at the Alvalade. I have not checked on where the game on the 14th is. You know what? And before I get into my question, go ahead.
Yeah, they're actually both at Alvalade. Both
at Alvalade. Okay.
Yeah.
So someone had reached out to me and asked me about how does one buy tickets for these national team games in Portugal, as they will be in Portugal at that same time. Is it? And I looked everywhere in terms of the tickets get sold by the federation. Am I like direct tickets? I should say, not third party or second party, whatever it is. But have they announced the tickets for this game at the Alvalade on October the 11th against Ireland? Has the federation, I guess, announced it?
Yeah. They normally announce them quite soon before the game. It can be quite annoying for people who want to come from abroad.
Sure.
3 or 4 weeks. But if they are in Portugal, if anyone who comes to Portugal and wants to watch the national team, and if they have the opportunity, I would recommend they go to the big supermarket chain here called Continent, because
I love Continent. The one in Terceira is unbelievable. I love it.
So you can, anything you want food wise, you can find there, but you can also find Portugal national team tickets, because they have this partnership with the FBF. And so they actually sell tickets, at the supermarkets, but you have to time it rightly, because they go on sale, and then maybe 2, 3, 4 days later they're all sold out. Those 2 games, like I mentioned, are at Alvalade, so big capacity, so 50,000. They've just increased it a little bit, taken out that moat, put in a few extra seats, and so over 50,000 capacity now. And if someone's got the chance, or if they've got perhaps friends or family here in Portugal, I would recommend asking them to just buy through the supermarket. And they're super cheap as well, Danny. I mean, I think they just have 3 tiers. I think it's 10, 15 and 20 euros.
Oh my God.
To see the Seleção in the flesh.
I'm living in the wrong country.
So that's the easiest way to get tickets. I guess you can also. I've never bought online, or because I live here in Lisbon.
Tom, why would you if they're 10, 15, and 20?
Yeah.
And also because you're an established journalist as well, my friend.
Also, the what's it called? Is it Portugal Plus? Is it Portugal Plus? The FPF. You can become a kind of member, or an official Portugal fan. Can't quite remember actually what the.
And maybe get a head start on ticket sales or something like that. Yeah.
And that's quite good, because you get sent obviously emails, notifications when the tickets go on sales, and I think you even perhaps if you may get them at slight discounts or something. So I would recommend people doing that. Joining that scheme. Next time I'm on, I'll look that up and give you a bit more details about how to do it. But basically, if you go to the FBF site, www.fpf.pt, and go to the English version, and there for sure they'll have all the information about how to become an official Portuguese fan. And then by doing that, you give yourself a better chance of getting tickets and also merchandise and stuff like that.
The opponents that are at the doorstep here of the national team, Armenia, Hungary, 2 away matches, as we mentioned, to begin qualifying. You also add the Republic of Ireland. I believe Armenia, and I'm looking at the FIFA rankings right now, I believe, not Armenia, but Hungary are the highest ranked team in the qualifying campaign here. I believe they are ranked number 38. Portugal currently sits, for whatever it's worth, they are 6th, up 1 spot from the last one. So given that Hungary is the next highest ranked team at 38, there is a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? There is just a big gap. A small word, big meaning. So there's a big gap between 6 and 38 and whatever Armenia and Ireland are right now. But would you say that the away match in Hungary may be the toughest on the schedule? Perhaps the away match in Ireland on November the 13th. Those are the two that I kind of eye as the toughest, with the Hungary match being the toughest. And I think if Portugal can get through that match with at a minimum a point, you're likely coming home with 4 points and 3 matches and 4 at home, and qualifying should be a given here. But what are your thoughts on the opponents coming up here in September and just overall in general?
Yeah, you look at it, it's quite a kind draw. The only thing is, of course, it is a small group, isn't it? Just a 14 group. So any slip up, it could be quite costly. So they have to, I think it's quite important to get off to a good start. If they lose either of these 2 games, that could spell trouble. But even a draw in Hungary, I don't think it would be a disastrous result, but you really expect Portugal to get this done. He's got a fantastic record, hasn't he, Martinez, in qualifying. He for the Euros won every game, 10 out of 10, which was the first time Portugal have actually done that. I mean, we've seen it, Dan, haven't we? The tribulations of qualifying. How many times have Portugal, messed up a seemingly straightforward qualification campaign? And was it 3 or 4 tournaments on the road? 3 certainly. We had to go to the playoff to get to the tournament.
Yeah, it was. I think the last time they did the playoff was I want to say it was for the World Cup in 2014. And then
Sweden,
maybe Sweden. And then there was a gap up until the World Cup for the World Cup in 2022 when Portugal lost to what was it, Serbia, at the death. Back in November of 21. So it's. They do like to make it fun sometimes, but as you mentioned, under Roberto Martinez, qualifying has never been the issue. It's what they do after that, and we've had two versions of it. One with World Cup, with the Euro, and then obviously with the Nations League, how they did in tournaments. But Tom, as always, I just really appreciate you always making time for us. Your expertise on all things Portuguese football is without question one of the main things that has brought this podcast to where it is right now. And always appreciate your time, and always appreciate you making time for us. And again, all the best to everyone in Portugal. And we wish you guys nothing but better days ahead. And we shall see what this national team does here in the next week or so, as World Cup qualifying begins in earnest, and the road to World Cup 2026 begins in earnest here in just a few days. So, Tom, appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Dan. Always good talking to you. Yeah, speak soon.
Yep. That, of course, is Tom Kundert of Portugal.net. You can follow Tom on Twitter at Portugal1. That's Portugal and the number 1. Such a great friend to this podcast since its inception, and we appreciate Tom's time on episode number 104. As we leave you here, just a couple of things. I was able to, I don't know if you guys can see, there it is. There is a T-shirt called, or written in the background there, called the Battle, or just says Battle of the Bifanas. We had an unbelievable event here in California, but it was what it was. It was a battle of the Bifanas, but more importantly, it was just a great time had by the Portuguese community of California, specifically San Jose. A wonderful event put together by Taylor Amarant, who's a friend of the pod, and new friend of the pod, Brian Flores. If you guys saw the kind of recap video I did for YouTube of the event, interviewing some folks at the event, some vendors, old friends, making new friends, just what a wonderful event, and pretty sweet T-shirt as well. So congratulations to them. On a job well done, and maybe another one. Maybe I'm doing my best Taylor Amarant impression there. So, yeah, my thanks to them for allowing me to be part of such a cool event that was a Battle of the Bifanas. Lastly, we start sad. We get to the football, and then I unfortunately need to end on a sad note. So my primo João Tost, from the Azores, but settled in Mississauga, Ontario. He passed away this week, just a couple days ago as of this recording. And my primo João, he was small in stature, but was larger than life in terms of, he was so fun. And he was not a bullshitter. Like, he let you know what was going on, but he also loved to have a good time with those around him. And he's going to be someone that I miss very, very much. My thoughts are with my cousin Brian and my cousin Dania, and their spouses and their kids and our cousins. It sucks, but he lived a very, very full life of 87. And I'm thankful for my time that I had with him. It was hard to see him as many times as I probably wanted to, given that he was up in the Toronto area, and I was living in California. But when we did hook up, he was able to, him and my prima Seleção, both came to my wedding in 2010, and they stayed with my folks for, I don't know, a couple weeks, 2 weeks, I don't know what it was, but just to them be there, getting to meet my kids and my wife, yeah, they were just awesome, and Primo João is now with Prima Seleção up in heaven, and I'm sure they are just going at each other in terms of arguing, because that was something they like to do as well. But all the best to all the best to my family up in Canada, and rest in peace, Primo João. This one's for you, buddy. Buddy. Oh God. All right. I can't. Anyway, but yeah, all the best to my family, and I always appreciate you guys sending nice thoughts because I've had my father-in-law, I've had my padrinho, I've had my madrinha, a good friend João or John Martins, and it's and I'm not asking for a kind word here. I'm not, but they come. And I'm always very appreciative when I mention that I have a passing or something's going on in my life too, because I get a chance to talk to you guys, and I know that everyone goes through this at some point. And if the pod can kind of give you an alleviate from like kind of the real world that we have to deal with sometimes. I'm always hoping that this could be an outlet for you guys. But the folks that are important in my life, especially those who support me doing this, however big the support is, it's always I'm blown away sometimes by how they support me and stuff like that. So it's fun. It's fun to recognize, while not fun being why I'm recognizing them, but it's good to recognize those you love and those who support you, and hopefully this pod can do that for you guys in terms of either support you in a bad time, or just giving a leaf from whatever it is that ails you. So with that, my thanks to Tom Kundert of Portugal.net for once again joining us on the show on episode number 104 of the Seleção podcast. My thanks to Tom. We are a proud partner of Portugal.net. Primos João, I love you. And Força Portugal!